podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan, and in this episode, well, it's a bit different because I'm taking you on a little bit of an audio tour of a fantastic Speedway experience which all fans of the sport should try if they get the chance and are able. Ride and Skid It, based at Buxton, is the brainchild of a man who hails from British Speedway's most famous family. Ex-Speedway rider and British flat track champion Aidan Collins, along with his dad Les Collins and another ex-rider Adam Allott, give people of all abilities the chance to learn how to ride a Speedway bike with no brakes and experience just a little of what our idols of the sport feel when they're in the saddle. Now, I was invited along to try it out for myself, so we will share some of the audio from that day to give you a flavour. But as well as Aidan and Les were also joined on that day by Joe Screen, so I was lucky to have some legendary tutors. First of all, though, let's speak to Aidan, who is Mr. Ride and Skid It. Welcome, Aidan.
How you doing, Ian?
I'm good, thanks. It's great to speak to you. And, well, we're going to talk about Ride and Skid It, which is the thing that you're involved in now very soon. But coming from, as I mentioned, the most famous Speedway family, I can't think of a more famous one in Speedway, the Collinses. Your dad being Les Collins, who was world number 2 in 1982. He was only pipped by Bruce Penhall, who became world champion in LA on his own patch. And Les was the only man to beat Bruce Penhall that night, which is quite something. And you yourself have had a successful Speedway career. You were a rider for Glasgow for a number of years, for Workington, but also spells at Edinburgh and also Birmingham as well. So you did the Speedway and then you moved on to the flat track, which we're going to explore more about as well. But I don't really need to ask you the question of how you got into Speedway. That is often a starting point, really. How did you find your way into Speedway? But with you, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, I was born straight into it. The Speedway community it still is a family community. It was a little bit bigger back in the day when I was in nappies. A lot more riders, a lot more family, a lot more people involved in the world of Speedway, especially in England. When I was in nappies, it was the number one country for all the top riders to race in. So I kind of grew up with like Bruce Penhall and Bobby Schwartz, all the Americans, and the Aussies like Phil Crump, Jason Crump's dad, and my dad used to be friends with Phil Crump, and it just goes on and on. It was inevitable I was going to be on two wheels, but I didn't really quite like the Speedway when I was younger. To be fair, I wasn't really interested in racing when I was younger. I just sort of kind of never really seen my dad. He was always traveling the world, and I kind of just wanted to be have a bit more of a normal sort of family life, but it was just life in the fast lane all the time, and it was a little bit different. I mean, I'm not complaining; it was brilliant, but some kids would be like, "Oh, I bet that was amazing," but it was good. I'm not complaining, but it was you didn't really see a lot of your dad. They were always off racing, and that was their job, and that's how I grew up. And then our time as a family was in the off season, for nice family holidays and things, and when my dad was relaxing from not racing and away from the pressures of racing. And obviously as well, I used to see the other side of the sport. My dad was not really a crasher. He was one of the safest riders in British Speedway, and a lot of the riders will vouch for that, who used to race with him. Sometimes I come home from school and I'd be in bed, and I'd be like, all my school friends would be like, "Where's your dad?" And I'd be like, "He's in bed." And they're like, "Why is he in bed?" I said, "Because he had a crash."
All right.
So it's kind of a bit of a weird scenario. It wasn't really it's not the normal family upbringing what everyone sort of has. So it was a little bit off-putting for me to think, oh, I really want to have that world and do that myself.
I suppose you see Speedway from all sides then, don't you? You get to peek behind that curtain that maybe some upcoming riders don't realise what happens when you get injured, or you don't realise the travelling and stuff, and so you went in with your eyes fully open to all sides of Speedway.
Yeah, that's it. Around the family tables or family get-togethers, where the rare occasions they did happen, it was it was always a lot of talk of injuries and people getting hurt, and it's kind of a bit off-putting as a young one, sort of listening to all that. Because I was growing up with them guys at the time with the world's best, or racing with the world's best, especially PC, and hearing him on about all his broken bones, it kind of sobers you up as a kid. You kind of think, do I want to do that?
Yeah.
So I never really had a dream to actually, from a young age, really want to get into the world of racing, motorbikes, full stop. It wasn't until I was about 14 years old I sort of started to approach my dad and say, I really want to have a go. We always used to have a track like Peter, and he had a little motocross track for his son, Chris Collins, my cousin, and he had a little tiny speedway track, and people like Sam Malenko would be there, and Joe Screen, and all these sort of riders just riding around on sheddy bikes, but just having a laugh. A couple of the local village town people what live locally to Peter and friends of the family would come down on a Sunday and ride motorbikes. It'd just be a fun day of just riding motorbikes, riding in circles, basically. So I always did that, and so eventually, when I thought, I wouldn't mind doing a bit of racing, I was like 14 years old. I was a little bit late, really.
Because we've heard stories of the Collins farm, and we had Chris Mawson on a few episodes ago at the start of the year, and he was saying, and that's how he had his education in Speedway, was learning at the Peter Collins farm and riding around there with his brothers, and your dad probably one of those. It
was, and I was lucky enough to experience that. When riding around with, like 8 years old on a little motocrosser and ball tyres and sliding it round, and we'll have like Joe Screen there, and sometimes maybe someone like Sam Malenko would be there, or Steve Johnson would be there having a bit of a blast, caked in mud in head to toe, but just with a big smile, just loving it. And that's what we generally did nearly every Sunday at the farm with Peter, and it was a good training ground, and you couldn't fault it. It was brilliant, and the amount of riders as well, what used to come, like Steve McDermott, who used to race for Berwick, and Andy Reid up at Workington, all these sort of people who used to race as well, they would be there now and again having a bit of a blast, reminiscing the old days when they used to race. So it was always quite a good. Well, it was just like the modern day Valentino Rossi Ranch now, basically, in the world of MotoGP. It was the equivalent of that, but just everyone was on muddy shed bikes, and you leave a bike in the shed at Peter's and you turn up a month or 2 weeks later and get a muddy bike out of the shed, never been washed, and just go ride it around the track all day. And that was it. So it was brilliant. It was gutting when he actually sold that farm, because it would have come in handy for what we're doing at the present day with Ride and Skid It.
And is that where the idea comes from then? You're giving a bit of the old Collins private track magic to anybody who wants to come along and have a go?
Exactly, and that's where the idea came from. With the racing, we always thought it'd be great to have your own track like Peter had, and that's how the Ride and Skid It sort of came about, really. When I was trying to get into the world of Speedway myself to give it a go with my cousin Chris, I started before him. I remember my dad, he did his best to try and stop me riding. He was like, "No, son, go and get a proper job. Don't do this." And that's another reality. A lot of the dads are pushing their sons to get into it, whereas my dad was like, "No, we don't want you doing this. Get a normal job."
But despite your dad saying don't do it, you did do it eventually. And I know you mentioned that you're a bit of a late starter, but you had a good career and raced for quite a number of teams. Edinburgh, Glasgow, of course, and Workington, Birmingham. So a good few teams under your belt over the time that you were involved in Speedway.
I did 9 years of Speedway. I rode for the Coventry National Youth Development League, which was a massive training ground for people like David Howe, Simon Stead, Oliver Allen, Chris Neath. Loads of riders came out of that, Andrew Appleton, and the list goes on and on. Chris Harris. It was an absolute intense training ground. And then the next level was the Conference League. That was like really tough because, again, you had Simon Stead, Oliver Allen, Chris Harris, all in that. And when I started, them guys were racing grass track for years. I had a hell of a lot to learn, a lot of crashes to suss out how to ride the Spirit bikes. So I was onto a bit of a loser from the start because I started so late. But when I finally got my act together and actually stayed on the bike properly and was actually riding a bit like a speedway rider and in control, not crashing all the time, I rode for Buxton and had a quite a good year. And then I actually rode with my dad at Glasgow Tigers for 2 years, and that was brilliant. A bit of a very weird scenario riding in Speedway with your dad. My dad was number 1 for the Glasgow Tigers. I came into the team at number 7, but within 2 months I was riding at number 2 with my dad. So that was pretty special looking back now, but at the time it was just wanted to try and do as best as I could.
That must be pretty rare, having a father and son combination riding in the same team, though. That's a pretty rare thing.
No, that's right, Ian. That year at Glasgow, the 2000, there was actually myself and my dad, and also Mark Courtney and Scott Courtney. So there's actually 2 father and sons in the team.
Blimey. Well, there you go.
And that was very special. But yeah, it was very special looking back now, because myself having to really get to grips with the professional world of Speedway instead of just riding at Conference League level with the Buxton Hitmen, really trying to make a living out of it and really progress my career. To get to number 2 riding in Heat 1 with my dad against like Carl Stonia and Sean Wilson and the other number 2s, it was looking back now, it was a great achievement, in my first year to be able to do that. And but at the time, you're not bothered. You just want to beat your dad and try and beat your dad anyway, and just do as well as you can. But that was basically how I started in Speedway. It was a hard slog for a couple of years, and then suddenly I kind of clicked and got going with the Glasgow Tigers for 2 years.
But as you mentioned, you were involved in Speedway for a good number of years. 9 or 10 years is a fair old shift, week in, week out, riding Speedway at league level, and for some well-known teams as well, alongside some well-known and fantastic riders. Was it a thing that you actually did enjoy? Are you pleased that you did it in the end?
Yeah, it was enjoyable, but it was, for me, my Speedway career was very frustrating because I never really fulfilled my potential, and, I just remember kind of making a bit of progress, like at Glasgow for my first year. I think I get a heat leader average, Yeah. I was like second in the averages. It was my first year as a professional rider, and I think it happened a little bit too quick, and then suddenly harder races and crashes, and it was just hard. I can't really describe it. I was just frustrated because I kind of made a bit of progress, and then I'd end up getting injured. And then I'd be out for a while. Then I made a bit of progress, and then Glasgow didn't want me, so that was frustrating because I missed basically nearly a full year. Then the Edinburgh Monarchs came in 2002, I think it was. So I rode with Edinburgh, and I did all right with them at reserve. And then, I wanted to stay at Edinburgh, but Workington came in with a really good offer, and they bought me off Glasgow.
Okay.
Also, my dad was still racing for Glasgow in 2003. So it was my time to be on my own and away from my dad, and really try and sort myself out. And I held my own, we had a great team at Workington for a couple of years with Simon Stead and Carl Stonia, he was a Grand Prix rider at the time. It was brilliant to be with them guys. And I held my own, and I think I was number 4 for the most of the year. So, it was tough going, but I managed to hold my own, and I proved to Ian Thomas, luckily, towards the end of the season when I just, getting a couple of double-figure scores at number 4 position, that warranted me a return to Workington the following year. So I had probably the best time ever was at Workington, not because of all the parties, what everyone knows about the old days. They all wave their hats out. That was part of the fun, but it was generally just the whole team was absolutely brilliant. We had Rusty Harrison, Kaki Neiman, and Simon Stead, Carl Stonia, myself, Brett Woodfield, and then a bit later on we had James Wright, and and James had come through the system at Buxton Speedway as well, like I had done, and it was just brilliant, and good bunch of lads, but we never really won anything, but we had a good go at it, and it was good. And then Ian kind of disappeared, and Graham Drury took over. I was kind of thinking about retiring when Graham Drury took over, and again injury ruined that year for me.
And you mentioned about Workington and having a good time and stuff, and it was a bit of a party team. I know that when we had Paco Castagna on a little while ago, he named Carl Stonehewer as one of his top 5 party people in Speedway, which I think is a question I need to ask a little bit more. But would you go along with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Carl, I was actually lucky enough to travel with him. When I was in the Youth Development League, I had a couple of adventures with him, and he was supposed to be looking after me. And yeah, I can't say too much, but he was on the gas. I think I was like 15 years old, and he was like, "Come on, let's go to the bar. Let's get going. I want to go. I'll watch you race from the bar." And he was supposed to be helping me, but.
Coach from the bar with a megaphone.
Yeah. He says, "Right, I've done my race and I'm off to the bar. I'll go and see how you get on." I never told my dad that line, but yeah, no, he was good. I remember him travelling down the motorway, and he stopped off at McDonald's for his healthy diet race, speedway diet, McDonald's in Sheffield. We're going to Arena Essex, and yeah, he was like no-handed driving down the road and eating his burger. I was just looking at him thinking, this guy's a flipping pro. What's he doing? Carl is absolutely superb. He's brilliant, and to be in the same team as him after him sort of taking me to a couple of meetings when I was a young lad. To actually be in the same team as him and getting a couple of 5-1s and actually beating him a fair and square a good few times as well. Was good. Yeah, absolute legend.
Fantastic stuff. But you called an end to your career after Birmingham, and obviously I think that was kind of a premature end to the career in some ways, and you felt that you hadn't fully achieved everything. But did you have that feeling that some riders have, that after you've parked the bike up for a bit, that it starts winking at you and you think, should I get it back out? Should I get back out there? Should I make a comeback and get back into Speedway? As we've seen quite a few times with many riders, it's one of those things. It's very hard to put down Speedway, isn't it, once you've been a rider?
One of my friends now, like James Wright, and obviously
exactly.
High profile rider like Jason Crump coming back as well, which is awesome. And every rider's got their own reason why they want to come back. I never wanted to go back to Speedway. I've done my time. In my eyes, I never made it as a Speedway rider. I tried my best, but I never made it. And certainly not to my dad's level or my uncle's level. No way. But yeah, what I set out to achieve, I never achieved. I showed glimpses, but there was no way I was going to go back at like 27 years old and go, right, let's get back onto it. Also, I think a little bit, I felt like Speedway was kind of sort of getting less popular as well, and there's a lot of negativity about the sport, and that kind of brings you down as well a little bit, and you kind of think, yeah, it's time to get out now. It's all the little things that add up, and
yeah,
it was when I got involved with it, there was a lot of buzz and a lot of hype about Speedway. It was on Sky Sports. A lot of people were like, "Oh, Speedway, I want to go and watch that." And there was a lot of buzz about it, and it seemed like the sport was really going places. And I kind of thought, maybe the sport's got a future, because it had a bit of a bad spell, didn't it? Where it kind of lost popularity a little bit in the end of the 80s and the 90s, and then suddenly, in the mid 90s, it started to blossom again, didn't it? So. That's what kind of got me back involved with it.
But Speedway wasn't the right thing for you, and you drifted into a different area of motorcycling with flat track. So how did you find yourself doing that, and what was the thinking behind it and your route to flat track? Because it was a sport that actually you turned out to be pretty handy at.
So yeah, it's completely different. Like I said, I had a year out from the sport, and I was like, well, I don't want to go back into Speedway. I had a load of teams wanting to sign me, but I just, my uncle Neil Collins was still racing at Newport or Somerset, and he was trying to get me to go to Newport, and I'd already made my mind up, not to go. And then, I kind of thought, we'll try and do a bit of grass track racing, and that never really materialised, and I got offered to go and do a bit of flat tracking. So I did an experience day, believe it or not, for CCM motorcycles. Had a go at that. And then I was quite good at that because it was like riding around the farm at my Uncle Peter's. So it was that was pretty cool. And I thought, yeah, we'll give this a go for a bit of fun. And then Peter Seaton, who sadly passed away this year, he sponsored me with a flat track bike because his son had retired. So I got a 450 Honda, and then I went flat track racing, and that's how I got involved with the world of flat track. And it was also brand new to England and Europe, and now it's the fastest growing motorsport in the world, and especially Europe.
Wow. So tell us about a flat track race then for the uninitiated who have never been to flat track. And we see it happening on some speedway tracks, but is this just a different version of speedway on a motocross bike, or is it more motocross? What is flat track for somebody who's never seen it? Just give us a picture of it.
It's completely different riding style. There's not many speedway riders what have been able to jump onto the flat track bike and be good. I mean, I had to do 3 years of learning it. You've got a gearbox on the bike, you've got suspension on the bike, you've got a rear brake on the bike, you've got a lot to learn about suspension setups. A hell of a lot more to learn than setting up a speedway bike, because there's more things to set up on the flat track bike. It's slower than speedway on the oval, but also we can go to half-mile tracks and we can do 120 mile an hour with 12 riders flat out, a bit like speedway, but we're doing 120 mile an hour.
Wow.
We also do tracks called TT where you have to power slide left and right. So I had to learn how to slide right because I'd never done it before.
Oh, that must be scrambling for your mind a bit.
Yeah, years and years of just going around in circles, and then suddenly having to do it the other way around, on right-hand corners was very alien. But we managed to get the hang of it. You also race on like sand, concrete, tarmac, dirt, speedway tracks. Basically grass, anything. But it's big business in America, and unfortunately I was invited to go to America, but unfortunately I was just at the wrong age. I had family and I was just couldn't get out there, so I settled doing racing in Europe and Italy, and then eventually I ended up riding for Honda UK Motorcycles, and you couldn't get better than them. They wanted a team in the British Championship and they asked me to ride for them, and that was how I managed to win 5 British Championships for the Honda UK brand, which was pretty good.
Wow.
And then we from that we got invited to race for the Honda Europe team. So we had all the latest bikes and stuff riding for the Honda Europe team.
And how different was it from speedway in terms of how it works? Because you had quite a lot of success in flat track, and you were 5-time British champion. You had some success on the European stage as well. So going from speedway, where you'd had an okay career, to then winning titles and things with flat track, it was a different level for you, really, in many ways.
Yeah, it opened my eyes up, to be honest, that there was more to motorcycling than just speedway. I've been lucky enough to race with like Marc Marquez, MotoGP world champion. I've been racing against Valentino Rossi's head trainer at the ranch. Also good friends with him. I've never been to the ranch yet, but I've been invited, a long time ago, but I never got out there. But that's one thing that hopefully I can do in future just for a bit of fun. Also, yeah, there's so many good riders what doing the flat track, and it's a training ground what the MotoGP riders and road racers use for training. So it kind of opened up a whole new world to me, and it also taught me how to run a lot more professional experience days for what we've got now. Because normally at a speedway event, or you go to somewhere, you put your kit on and it's just ride around. Having said that, that's what you did when you come to us because you never rode a bike before. But, if you're a more experienced motorcyclist, we can do more in depth. So if you came again, you would have a lot more in-depth training and more of an experience day rather than just getting your head around riding the bike.
Yeah.
But it basically opened everything up to a different world. And, with the manufacturers like KTM, Kawasaki, big brands involved with the sport, it was a whole new world. The only thing I was gutted about is I wish I had all this sponsorship when I was racing Speedway, because Speedway would have been a hell of a lot easier.
It's a sort of cruel irony, isn't it, that as you've got experience in a sport, that you get all the all the stuff that you wish you had at the very start of it.
It was quite funny. It's, all them years of Speedway, and I never got hardly any sponsorship. And, the people that did help me out, I'm really thankful for. But, on a level of what all the other lads were on, I was on really low budget stuff. And my dad always said to me, listen, you don't waste money at this game. You're not going to go out and just blow loads of money and get bank loans out like all the other lads are doing. You just do what you can do, and that's it. If you get a sponsor, brilliant. If you don't, well, you just got to run with what you've brung. And that is how we did it. So we never got in debt racing. We did it a sensible way, which I'm grateful for my dad to say that, because I look at a lot of other people and they get, the mum and dad's getting a lot of debt, whereas we just did it sort of the right way. We didn't get carried away. But then when I started doing the flat tracking, doors were just kind of opening up. It was like, oh, yeah, we'll sponsor you. Oh, yeah, like Maxxis tyres, like the massive tyre brand. And as soon as I started racing and I started getting some results, they were like, we'll sponsor you. We'll give you free tyres. Bearing in mind, them tyres are like £130 a tyre. And when I was at the pro level, I'm having to use a tyre every race, and they're £130 a tyre. So,
wow,
it was just like, God, yeah, I can't believe it. It was like jackpot. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, bloody hell, if only I had this support when I was racing Speedway. Speedway might have been a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it is much more of an expensive sport, and the price of Speedway has increased over time, hasn't it, as well? So, your dad will know that things will have been much different at the point where he finished professionally racing than when he started. You look now and some kids are turning up with vans full of three bikes, and they've got a big snazzy van and all this kind of stuff. And your dad would have been slinging it on the back of the car on a trailer or something, no doubt, as he used to do.
That's it. The old man was the old school thinking, and he basically just drummed that into me. I think I had about 3 bikes and 4 engines, and that was like amazing to him. It was like, bloody hell, I never had that. I just had 2 bikes and that was it. It was a different era, but you had to have it. But the cost of tuning was phenomenal, and but having said that, the flat track was very cheap to start with, but then once we started getting to the pro level, flat track was actually more expensive than the Speedway. So luckily for me, I was well sponsored by that point, and I could sort of name a price or get all the best equipment and best tyres and best everything, basically. But yeah, if I had to pay for that in flat track, I probably would have had to go back doing Speedway or grass track again, just because it was a bit cheaper. But Speedway is relatively cheap. It's just the amount of meetings you do, because you're racing so often. That's where the price comes in. So yeah, it's very expensive, but it's like anything, the better you get, the more expensive it becomes as well. To stay at the top level, you got to spend more money to make sure you stay at the top level, basically. So. And
that's Aidan Collins on Humans of Speedway. Aidan is part of the famous Collins family. I don't think there's a more well-known family in British Speedway. And currently what he's doing is giving you the chance to ride a Speedway bike, regardless of your ability or age. As long as you're in half decent nick, you can have a go at riding a Speedway bike. And we're going to find out more about Ride and Skid It next here on Humans of Speedway. Welcome back to Humans of Speedway, part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, where you can find your next favourite podcast. There's all sorts of stuff to check out, all manner of sports and different types of podcasts. Everything from football to cricket to tennis, loads to go at, and of course, more Speedway, because you'll also be able to find on the Sports Social Podcast Network the official British Speedway podcast, No Breaks, No Fear, where every Tuesday at 8 o'clock you get a brand new episode where we keep you up to date with what's happening in British Speedway, look back at the major fixtures from the Monday night and ahead to the week's action as well, speaking to loads of stars from on the track and off the track too. Make sure you don't miss that, whatever you do. Right now, though, we're speaking to Aidan Collins on this episode of Humans of Speedway. Aidan is the son of Les Collins, and the two of them now work together. at an experience called Ride and Skid It, which is based at the old Buxton Speedway track, which is nestled high above the town of Buxton itself. It's right out in the moors. I don't think there's a more spectacular or indeed remote speedway track in the country. I'm happy to be corrected, but it's certainly fairly barren. And it's certainly the only speedway track I've ever been to that you had to go over 3 cattle grids to get to. It's a spectacular location, though, Aidan.
Yeah, it's very remote, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also probably the hardest track in England to ride.
Really?
And it's probably the only track in England what's got a load of dirt on it. That was when the Hitmen were running on it. A lot of the speedway tracks are very slick. But I do remember towards the end of the last few years of the Hitmen, all the away riders used to moan about the track just because it had dirt on it. But unfortunately, the bikes kind of struggle on the dirt, and the riders don't really want to. They're kind of just used to riding on one surface now, and they basically just, the bikes the way they are, it's basically all flat out, and it just doesn't quite suit Buxton's, way it is.
The sort of texture of Buxton, having seen the track, it's sort of reminiscent of a classic cinder track that you used to get. It's not like a brown shale track.
If we were all on West Lakes or something like that, like the old boys are always batting on about. If we're all on West Lakes, Buxton would be brilliant. But because they're all on these rockets now, basically, and basically are just flat out all the time, pretty much. It's just very hard, and that's why a lot of the riders didn't like Buxton. But having said that, Richard Moss and myself are in agreement that you've got to learn all sorts of tracks. You have to learn a bit of everything. It's no good just riding a nice slick track over and over again because you're not learning anything.
Yeah, somebody said it's a small track, but there's enough room to get some speed up, and it's like you say, probably a fairly tight track if you're riding a rocket ship, but certainly big enough for novices and so on, and interested passers by.
For what we do, it's perfect. It's perfect size for us, and safety's paramount with us. Ian, you've never rode a motorcycle before, so we was just basically all we wanted to do was make sure you got round the track safely and just built your confidence up throughout the day. That's all we wanted to do. If you came back again and did the Speedway experience, now you go on the Speedway bike, you know what to expect, you know how to ride the bike now. We will push you a little bit more and give you more insight into the world of Speedway and give you a bit more, or a lot more of an education, because that's what we do as well. We don't just, give Joe Public the chance to ride a Speedway bike. We also educate them as well about what it feels like to be at the back, getting filled in, doing little mini tracks, really getting your power sliding, trying to anyway. Just giving you an insight into the world of sport and educating you, and that's what we do.
And it's not just riding the bike or anything like that and learning how to wind it on, because you don't learn how to wind it on, certainly if you're new like I was, where you're tootling around really, really slowly. But it was also things like positioning and how you hold your hands and having straight wrists so that you don't hurt yourself if the bike were to lock up, and little things like that, little sort of nuances and details that you probably would never have noticed if you're just an everyday fan like most of us. But once you see it and once you know it, you watch the Speedway on the TV and you can see these riders doing stuff that you never even noticed before.
Yeah, that's it. Little finer details. We really, it's basically a CBT test. When you go and do a road bike test, you get all the basic little details, the fine details, and that's what we do. It's just the fine details to give you the first baby steps onto a Speedway bike. What we generally do is have repeat customers because they're like, I really want to master this. So every time they come, we'll step it up, step the training up, step everything up, and really go to work with them and really push them, obviously, when their skill level allows. And then once they've mastered a 125 absolutely flat out, and they can turn it inside and outside and turn it on a sixpence and do it one-handed and just be in complete control, then it's like, go and get a 500. Do you know what I mean?
Wow, yeah.
Whereas a lot of the young lads now, they can't even do that, and they just go and get a Grand Prix bike and go racing, and it's like, you haven't even learned the basics, guys. You know what I mean? So that catches a lot of the kids out, but the younger ones today don't want to do that. But that's not what we're about primarily. We just want to give yourself and Joe Public the chance to ride Speedway. And bearing in mind, 80% of our customers don't even know what Speedway is, and they've never even been to Speedway. So we're actually advertising the world of Speedway as well nowadays, and educating them about Speedway also. So, which is only a benefit for the world of British Speedway anyway.
Tell us about the bikes that people ride, because they're not going to be on a 500cc GP rocket ship, clearly, because that would be asking for trouble. But 125cc, which has certainly got plenty of poke in it, and they are Honda bikes too, which is a little different to what you're probably used to seeing at a Speedway track.
Honda engines in them. They have a gearbox on them as well, but we just put it in a fixed gear for you. So, like you said, if you're a novice, you start in first gear. If you're more experienced, you start in second, and then we get you into third by the end of the day. And if you're good enough, you can go around flat out. We have a lot of people that go, "Oh, I want to go on a 500," and by the end of the day, they're like, "Oh God, yeah, I definitely don't want to go on a 500, so I can ride these a bit better."
They have enough power. I know that they're 125s and a normal Speedway bike's 500, but I can tell you firsthand that they certainly got quick enough.
We have people that have been around Alton Park on a 1000cc track day bike, oh, it's all right, I'm used to 1000. And they get off and they're like, fair play to Speedway lads, because I wouldn't even want to get on a 500. After what I've been doing on 225 and what you've been trying to get me to do and hold the thing flat out. These are more experienced riders I'm talking about, not the novice riders.
Yeah.
The more experienced riders, it puts the fear of God in them.
Yeah, no, and when I was there as well, it was raining towards the end, and there was such a difference in the track the last time I went out, and it was you could feel the greasy surface, and I was all for winding, having a crack down at the back straight at least, and I came out of the first bend and I could feel the front wheel starting to slide a bit more. I'm thinking, no, I just want to go home in one piece.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. A lot of our customers just want to come and do an adventure day. They want to ride a motorcycle it's got no brakes. It's like, blooming it, I've done that, I've came, I'm going home with a smile on my face, and it's something to talk about in the pub that evening. And that's generally what our customers are about, adventurers or motorcyclists, just want to try a different discipline. And like I said, most of them have never been to Speedway. And then we have, like yourself, like the fans or people that have grown up with Speedway, and they just want to have a little insight into it, so that's what we try and do, just to give you a little insight, and hopefully you will come back as well, Ian, and then we can push you a little bit more.
Well, with a bit of practice, I could be available on a cheap average for some team next year. Who knows? Let's have some audio from the day then, and let people listen to how I got on. It's a full day experience, really. You get there about 10:15 in the morning, and it runs till about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So there's a lot crammed in there, and it all starts with getting kitted out. All right, just got my gear on. There's a lot of it. I didn't realise how long it takes to get ready as a Speedway rider. Got body armour, got knee pads, I've got a steel shoe, got the full lot.
Just want to explain a little bit about what's going on today. We've got a lot of beginners today. So a lot of the beginners, what I'm going to be saying to you, you don't have to take in too much notice, because you're going to have one-on-one tuition with my dad Les, and Adam Allott is going to be really taking care of you. The rest of you guys are going to be lumbered with me and Richard, unfortunately, but we're going to get you straight out onto the big stuff and get you going a bit more in depth, more sort of stuff. And then we'll probably swap over just before dinner time so my dad can give you a bit of a lesson. We've also got superstar here, Joe Screen, as well, so don't be afraid to ask him, because he's going to be going out there giving it some on the 125s as well. And we've also got Ken Eyre as well, the old Bellevue Speedway legend, helping us out as well today. So we've got a star-studded field here with us today.
As a Speedway fan, it is really impressive to be stood there wanting to learn about how to ride a Speedway bike, and knowing that you're getting tuition from your dad, who's a former world number 2, Joe Screen, who's a legendary British Speedway rider of modern times, yourself, Adam Allott, you're all people who have been there, seen it and done it, and at the highest level as well in different ways. And you know that you're getting the real deal here.
No, that's it. We've got no shortage of riders wanting to help us either, I think they like what we do, and they're always willing to. They're always there at the end of a phone if I'm ever struggling for an instructor, just to give us a bit of a hand or whatever. They're always there. But the 3 main instructors is myself, Adam Allott, and my dad Les Collins. They're the main instructors. But yeah, we do have guest instructors, and also we have old Bellevue Speedway legend Ken Eyre up there as well, just helping us out. So, and on any given day, there could be one of the Speedway mates just popping in and just having a look, or just chucking a bit of advice out now and again. So yeah, it's just a nice family atmosphere, and we go at everyone's pace. We suss you out what level you are at, and we take it from there. And that's generally, put us in good stead. And we're really running a really good positive setup up there these days. After the good few years it took to set it up and get the name out there. Now we're really motoring. On the Speedway side of things, that's always busy. And then we launched the flat track as well in 2017. And to be honest, since we launched the flat track, the business boomed. It just went crazy. But again, flat track is a very new and exciting sport for a lot of motorcyclists.
This is Humans of Speedway. That's Aidan Collins. Let's hear a bit now with your dad, because I was out on the centre green at Buxton, and this was how things started. For those of us who'd never ridden a Speedway bike before, there's a little tiny track in the middle, and really it's walking pace all the way round. And here is Les Collins explaining some of the stuff that we're going to do, just to give you a bit of a flavour.
Your left foot on the floor, shut right off, slow your speed down, and then as you get to walking pace, pull the clutch in. That disengages the gear anyway, so the bike will freewheel. Then all you do is just drag your foot in the dirt a bit, your left foot, and it'll just come to a gradual stop. But that'll come as the day goes on anyway. So it's just nice and gentle on the throttle, just to carry around the track.
So that's Les Collins' instructions, and then it was time to, get on a Speedway bike. Here we go. So at this point we are just going round the little training track in the middle of the main Buxton Circuit, literally at walking pace. You can hear my steel shoe dragging through the mud there. Yeah. And this is how people start who are beginners, who are absolute novices, isn't it? Just walking pace stuff on the bike.
We have a lot of motorcyclist journalists come to us, but they have motorcycling experience, so we can push them further.
Yeah.
But obviously, when you've got no motorcycling experience at all, like both of you hadn't had, it's we just go very, very slowly with you guys, But yeah, the second time, hopefully you will come, and we can give you a bit more of a push, shall we say?
Food for thought. Next time, when you're on the bike, you want to lift your elbows up. Right. That'll consequently your back be straight. At the moment, like that. It's down. But you've run out of all adjustment. Okay. So you're not using, you've run out your arm and you've run out of wrist. Yeah. So you need to come up and over, so you're just using the wrist to turn the throttle. Yeah. Okay? At the moment you're flattened out. Yeah. So if you can just think about getting that up, it's just your wrist that gets you the throttle up. And then you can just try and just progressively go a little bit quicker. And the quicker you go, the easier it feels.
So that was my final bit of advice on improving my posture on a Speedway bike. Straighten up your wrists. That was what you need to do. And then it was onto the main Buxton track. We'll come to that very soon. But we've mentioned that the amount of experience that's on hand at Ride and Skid It. You've got Aidan Collins, former Speedway rider, Adam Allott, and of course Aidan's dad, Les Collins, former British number 2. But we had a special bonus with Joe Screen being on hand on the day that I went there as well. And Joe, for those who don't know, is a legend of Bellevue Aces, Bradford, Glasgow, a 2-time British champion and a former world under-21 champion. And for me, as growing up as a Bradford fan, sort of slightly surreal to have my first experience on the main track, having been handed a Speedway bike from Joe Screen. But it happened, and anyway, I caught up with Joe, and here he is telling us about what he was doing at Ride and Skid It.
Yeah, it's been 7 years, I think, since I finished. But I still I wanted to have a few more rides, but with work and stuff, it's difficult. But I've been talking to Aidan over the last few weeks, and I came up a while ago and enjoyed it. So I'm getting my own bike sorted to come up here more often, really. And it's great to see people coming who've not ridden bikes before and enjoy themselves and find out how difficult it is to actually. They're only on Honda 125s, but they are difficult bikes to ride, as in trying to ride Speedway. So if you can cope this, ride a Honda 125 really fast, then try a 500 and see how hard it is.
Yeah, and we're just talking to Aidan. Obviously, the technique is something that you don't really take into account when you're watching it on the TV as to how much weight is on your arms, more than your leg.
It's difficult, I know a lot of riders who are top in road racing, motocross, enduro, and then they get on a Speedway bike and they just can't do it the same, and they're using different muscles and the kids I sort of try to help when I've helped in previous, you've got a bit more looser in the hips and not like a motocross sort of stiffness, and it's quite good when they do have a go and realise it's a lot of different technique than normal bike riding, but it's fun, and that's the main thing. We're all here to have fun, and if you can go away with learning something and enjoy yourself, that's the main thing.
There you go, Joe Screen there, who was on hand to help out. And as I mentioned, Joe then handed me the bike straight after lunch for a go on the full Buxton track. Find out what happened with that. We'll also hear from Les Collins in the next part as well, here on Humans of Speedway. This is Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan, giving you a flavour of what it's like to go to the Ride and Skid It experience in Buxton and actually have a go at riding a Speedway bike. It is a brilliant day out and caters for all ages. I'd never ridden any motorbike that I can think of in my life, and so I'd started off slowly, and then it was time to hit the main track, having progressed from that, and here's that moment I was allowed out on the actual Buxton Circuit. Here we go.
So the bikes are now in third gear. You've just been taught your basics about getting your steel shoe ready. Slide along the floor, your elbows up nice and steady on the gas. You're going to go on the big track now. You follow the arrows round. Follow the arrows round. Join the circuit over there, okay? Then go around the circuit, around the infield, nice and steady. Bikes are in third gear now, okay? But they will carry some speed now. Smooth on the gas, don't give it loads of gas, just keep it all nice and steady and nice and smooth. Just get used to the bike, used to the track conditions, stay away from the fence, nicely around the inside, okay?
So I'm going down a straight now. I'm heading straight for Joe Screen.
So that was my first trip out, and then you come in, have a little break and give it another crack, and you're feeling like you want to wind it on a bit. Oh, it sounds good, doesn't it? I was going about 30 miles an hour, but it felt a lot faster, but a great experience to feel what it's like on a Speedway bike, and soon enough it was time to come in.
Hello there.
Oh yeah, thank you.
CBT Tester Speed Race 1, mate. 500 next.
Well, I'll see you in Cardiff.
Nice one, mate. At least you know the basics now if you do anyway.
I know, it's awesome, thank you.
So that was me done with the track time. I made it round in one piece, and there I am, officially a Speedway rider. I mean, a very low-level one, but hey, I'm affordable. Let's speak now to Les Collins. Les Collins is Aidan's dad, as we mentioned, but also former world number 2, an Edinburgh Speedway legend, a British Speedway legend in general, and he's firmly part of Ride and Skid It, and he really loves teaching people all about the sport. So let's catch up with Les Collins right now and see how I did.
Yeah, it's just good putting something back into the sport again after, all the years we've enjoyed racing. All my brothers, all my family, all my friends race Speedway, grass track, long track. And it's absolutely just tremendous fun that we have. we used to like train in these conditions on similar bikes to this, which probably made us so good. We are pretty good for renown for overtaking people. If we didn't get away from the takes first, it's 4 laps to a race, roughly just over a minute a race, and 9 times out of 10, me or my brothers would be in front by the last lap. So, but this is grassroots level. This is what it's all about: learning the basics, enjoying yourself, having fun, and I'm sure you guys today have all enjoyed it as well, as much as we have watching you lot do it. Like them little kids we've had today, 2 little girls, never been on a motorcycle in their life before. Been awesome, absolutely loved it. Same with the young lads as well. Never been on a motorbike before, and they're going around there, thoroughly enjoying it, and that's what it's about, having fun, putting something back into the sport for everyone.
And you've got, a mix of complete novices and then Joe Screens here as well. It's great for people to, certainly for people like me to share a track with Joe Screen. It's quite surreal in a way as well,
Absolutely, all our staff, we're all experienced motorcyclists, whether it's flat track, speedway, motocross, whatever. And to have special appearance of Joe Screen today is terrific. A few weeks ago we had John McGuinness up with Joe Screen. We've had a lot of top stars up here, and they've all gone away and they've actually learned something as well, which is really good, and it'll help them with whatever else they do. We have people that ride road bikes. They come back time and time again because they love doing it with us, and a lot of them say, "Thanks very much, you saved my life on the road. I came to a roundabout, a wagon had spilt a load of sand." He said, "In the past I would have just slammed my brakes on and tried to get off the roundabout and probably crashed." He said now they just tend to freewheel around, put the foot down on the track like they do in the MotoGPs, and steady the balance and carry on. Don't hit the brakes, don't panic. And so that's another good feeling we get out of it, putting something back into motorcycling, which is terrific.
Okay, do you think I'm ready to take on Bruce Penhall yet?
Well, he's getting on a bit now, Bruce. I think he's a year or 2 older than me, but whether he's still riding so much, I don't know. But obviously I'm still keeping fit doing this, instructing. I've not had a real go in anger today, but maybe in a few weeks I'll perhaps have a good blast round again myself. Every now and again we have a big blast at the end of the day, all of us, and it's good. So it keeps us fit as well.
There's Les Collins talking about the Ride and Skid It experience. Aidan Collins is here, his son, but also the gaffer, really, at Ride and Skid It. And Aidan, it is very much a safe experience, as safe as it can be when you're riding motorbikes, but a lot of care and attention goes into providing the right safety gear for people, to warning people and explaining the risks and the dangers when you're out there on track, and of course the COVID aspect as well. Now everything has to be cleaned and all that kind of stuff, so that is a huge concern for you.
That's our priority, safety, especially with all the COVID stuff at the minute as well. And all our kits sanitised. We have to go through a lot of extra expense to get everything, proper cleaned and deep cleaned, and we have to go a lot further with everything, which is quite frustrating because we're on our 2nd year of doing it now. But at least we're busy, and I think most of our dates are nearly all sold out now as well. So yeah, it's a good thing. The motorcycle world really was actually voted in the Motorcycle News, which is Britain's biggest motorcycle newspaper. A couple of years ago, it was actually voted in the UK's top 10 experience days of motorcycle sports to do. So that was for the Speedway and the flat track. So again, that's all good publicity for the world of Speedway, but also getting new customers into the world of Speedway as well.
And that's what we want in it, more people finding Speedway by whatever means. And if people are listening to this who are Speedway fans and they do know about Speedway and they want to have a go at riding a bike like I did, how do they go about it, Aidan?
Yeah, if you go onto Ride and Skid It website, rideandskidit.com, there's a website there. We're on Twitter, Ride and Skid It on Twitter, Aidan Collins Ride and Skid It on Twitter, Instagram page Ride and Skid It, and Ride and Skid It Facebook page. So yeah, just click on there, and all the information's on the website, and you can just book in, and if there's any places available, that is at the minute, just inquire, and yeah, it's easy as that.
Yeah, do check it out, and if you can get there and make it and have a go, then you will not be disappointed for sure. And regardless, as I've proved, really, I've got no ability, and I managed it and really enjoyed it. So I think if you've got a bit more ability than me, you'll enjoy it even more, no doubt. Thanks again, Aidan, for everything, and good luck for the rest of the year. Hopefully you can get some more people on the sessions restrictions gradually ease. That would be the dream, wouldn't it? But I'll see you at some point for round 2.
Definitely, Ian. You need to come do round 2. And luckily for us, it's quite a good. We're in quite a good situation regarding how we're set up and how we run. So we're not under threat or anything about closing. We're going to be here for the future.
Good.
So there's no issues there, and we've not got riders' wages to pay or anything like that. So we just got to keep on top of the insurances and making sure everyone has fun, and that's our aim of the day.
And it certainly is fun. That's Aidan Collins from Ride and Skid It. If you would like to find out more, you can head online at rideandskidit.com, or indeed look for it on social media. You get all the info you need. My thanks to Aidan Collins, to Les Collins, to Adam Allott, and to Joe Screen for taking part in this episode. And don't forget to check out some of our previous episodes. If you're new to Humans of Speedway, maybe this is the first episode you've ever heard, well, there's lots more to listen to. If you head on to whichever podcast app you wish, we've got all sorts of stuff from the previous year or so. It is over a year since I started this podcast, and going back over that year, there's plenty to catch up on, not least Chris Morton, who of course is well known to the Collins family, and formed his trade on that Collins family track on the farm. You can hear more about that in that episode. We also had recent chats with Nikolai Clint and Paco Castagna. We've got episodes with former world champion Gary Havelock, Jeremy Doncaster, Kelvin Tatum, Shane Parker, Neil Machin. We've also got Phil Morris, the director of the Speedway Grand Prix. And we've got Nigel Pearson and Scott Nichols as well, all on previous episodes of Humans of Speedway. And there's more to come over the coming weeks as well, so make sure that you follow Humans of Speedway, like us, subscribe, whatever it is on your app, do that, because when you do that, it means that when a new episode arrives, you will get it quicker than people who haven't subscribed. So it just kind of makes sure that you get the feed. That's what it's all about. And feel free to drop us a review if you enjoy what you hear. That also helps other Speedway fans find us too. And we'll be back very soon for another episode of Humans of Speedway.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
When life throws you unexpected curves, from a small scrape to a larger collision repair, Vic's Auto Body Repair, the insurance claims specialist, is here to help you out. Their top-certified professionals specialize in getting you back on the road safely. As a locally owned and operated business, they truly care about you and your vehicle. Rest assured that your vehicle will be repaired correctly, whether it's a large scrape or a larger accident. Vic's Auto Body can handle all your collision repair needs. Stop by Vic's Auto Body for a quick assessment of the damage at 1514 Willow Creek Drive, Iowa City.